Could you just say something, Mr. President?
Testing.
You sound pretty good. Okay. So, President Anderson was just discussing that he would prefer to play General Lancera off against General Kruger, preferably with the idea of sidelining him or removing him entirely.
That sounds like a good idea. Probably the safest bet. If we sideline him, then he can't cause issues later on down the line.
Sounds like a plan. Leader?
I agree.
We'll now move on to a meeting about our media strategy. Let's begin. First of all, Lucian, you mentioned before that Marcel Caronti contacted you. Caronti is a media mogul and founder of the Heart of Swordland media chain. He has offered to meet with you, Mr. President.
What does he want?
After the passing of his father, may he rest in peace, Marcel aims to become the next CEO of the Hoss conglomerate. He mentioned a productive collaboration. They are a powerful and influential media conglomerate. To start with, the Swordland Today newspaper, Swordish Broadcasting Corporation, the Swordland, which means we have to be wise with them and keep them on our side. Sorry for interrupting.
Sounds like there is potential there.
There is definitely potential. A potential that could go both ways. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to determine our general approach to media. There are two ways we can approach this. One of them is by influencing it, which has clear advantage, and the other is keeping it independent.
The media is an independent entity.
Perhaps it is wise to do so. Ideally, yes, but an unpopular leader will not be able to pass even the easiest reforms. It is of the utmost importance to maintain public popularity and avoid any damaging scandals or mistakes. I must stress one thing, Mr. President. The more people we have supporting our agenda, the more we can accomplish. With someone on our side as influential as a media organisation, we can do this very easily.
I see what you're getting at.
I agree with Lucian, but why the assumption there'll be scandals and mistakes? We can always hope for the best, but do you really think that nothing can go wrong, especially considering the recent history of Swordland? Or the rivalry between Mr. Caronti and Mr. Tusk? Leva Suno, the new secretary. Her dark curls bounced as she crossed the room to my desk. And that wasn't all. She spoke with a slight lilt in her voice. Excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. Galade's secretary has been calling me and wanted me to relay a message. Marcel Caronti, the new CEO of the Hoss conglomerate, is on the line for Mr. Galade. Well, the ball is in our court now. Would you like to talk to him, sir, or would you like me to?
You go ahead, connect the line to my office.
Right away, sir. Connecting the call to line 1. Lever left the room. The phone ringing started. Lucian picked up the phone and started to listen. A few moments passed as the two talked over the phone. Good news indeed. Congratulations, Mr. Caronti. Thank you for contacting me about this. We'll talk later. Lucian put the phone down. It was so important that it couldn't wait. He was just elected CEO by the board of directors. He offered a partnership deal regarding his mediaship branch. He is inviting us to his resort near Conriat for a meeting. The board has decided rather quickly. It seems that they gave him the confidence to approach us again. He is going to offer a real deal now and has the power of the conglomerate too. The choice is up to you, Mr. President. I can set up the meeting soon.
I'd like to hear your opinion, Peter.
Andrew,
Yep, go for it.
you think we should deal with this guy?
Yeah. Set up the meeting.
Sounds like a
Are
plan.
you sure? I mean, manipulation of the press? It's a bit dark, man. On the other hand, he could get us a lot of
We
things.
gotta be a bit that. If you reckon then.
I'm not saying either way. I'm asking you your opinion. You're the vice president.
I reckon set up the meeting.
Well, meeting with him at least would help us figure him out. We could still say no to whatever he offers. Okay, we'll hear him out. I'll set things up right away, Mr. President. We can expect a worthwhile meeting next month. It appears we're done for today. We'll continue where we left off. Thank you for your time. Briefings for the current economic situation. Simon Hall, Chief Minister of the Economy. Gus Menger, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. And Lilius Graf, our Minister of the Interior and Justice. We're about to arrive at the White Room for our scheduled economy meeting. This was the room in the Maroon Palace where all important meetings were held. Two assistants arrived first, carrying a heavy projector. They stood by it with the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway, I heard Lilius's Graf's voice. She was using a patient, almost motherly tone she often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advanced area is in need of more investment than England? Lilius, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige, and the only spot of colour a bright yellow Nurus star on her necklace. Gus followed close behind. A religious woman. Don't be an idiot, Lils. What about the unemployment crisis in Greater Holsword and Gelsword regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartland. Gus curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since his days in the Alfonso administration. But neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network of connections was unlike any other. Simon quickly stepped between the two ministers without looking at either of them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, everyone.
I am very well and motivated, Mr. Rain. It seems our ministers are feeling the same.
You can clearly see that. What's this discussion about?
We were having a discussion about the infrastructure plans, Mr. President. If I may, I would like to talk to you about... We will get there, Gus. No rush. First, I would like to conduct my economy presentation.
Let's begin.
My staff and I have comprehensively analysed every aspect of... He was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants by the door, both of whom were now visibly struggling to hold up the heavy projector. Oh, you can put it there. He pointed below the painting of President Sol. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave me now. They mean thank you, and please, leave now. Please. The assistants left the cabinet room. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had a way with people, but his facility with numbers had more than made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Swordland. Simon started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him. Simon, what happened to the new police station construction in Estord? While going through his briefcase, he paused for a moment to answer. It got stalled due to a government property boundary issue. I have been meaning to look at it. I can take a look at that one. Estord needs all the security help it can get. Sure, more time for me to spend on my analysis. His eyes glittered when he finally found the slides he was looking for. There have been some developments about the Swedish Ren losing further value today. We have been trying to stabilise it with the central bank. The recession of 51 put enormous pressure on the economy, Mr. President, resulting in a collapse of the value of the currency. The entire situation was a significant cause of concern for our administration. What would you like to know about the current economic situation?
What is our GDP and debt situation?
Our GDP is 310 billion Swedish Ren and the national debt is 427 billion. It's still hard to fathom that we lost nearly 150 billion in wealth. These past 3 years were tough.
What is the status of the recession?
The economy has been in recession of about -6% the past year. That's a depression, not a recession, Simon. I found an error in the game. I'm going to have a word to them about that. If it's negative growth, it is actually a depression, if I recall. In the past year, the average GDP has dropped from 15,400 SR per capita to 10,350. Oh wow, that's bad. That's almost a third. This administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach the GDP growth, the better.
What is the unemployment and inflation rate?
Unemployment has skyrocketed and is now a staggering 16%, and the inflation rate is a relatively high 7%. Unemployment is increasing crime and drug use. We need to get the people off the streets, Mr. President. Inflation isn't helping our average citizen either.
I have all the information I need.
Simon scattered the paper stack in front of him in an ordinary manner and took a final look at his notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not everything is negative. The extensive privatisation program of Alfonso left us with a large budget surplus, which we can now use to stabilise the crisis. The primary subject we need to settle is on what general path we will take. Solonomics-based nationalisation happened in the 1930s, and Alfonso's privatisation program began during the end of the 1940s. What will our administration focus on? One of our main promises was to promote a free market economy to stop the recession. To be frank, I believe it's the only way out of the recession. Mr. President, I still don't support it. Why promote the private sector when we have qualified state-owned enterprises? Because the lack of competition has made them inefficient.
What are the consequences of a free market?
There are not many, but one could say that we are much more likely to be influenced by the world economy. It is important to think about this subject too, because the upswings of the world economy will reflect good on ours too. Yes, and when the global economy crashes, we'll go down with it. The structural problems of Solonomics were going to lead to a recession according to predictions of the time anyway. Either way, even if we pick on one of these doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economic plan. Finally, something we can both agree on, Lilith. There is another important point which we have a direct impact on our economy, the superpowers. We have done well not aligning ourselves with any one of them. Economically speaking, an isolationist policy overall could only work if we were to reap the benefits of both spheres of their rivalry. This is very dangerous to attempt, but still possible. We must be very cautious, Mr. President. There are schemes being devised about Swordland. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future, otherwise our country will be turned into a pawn. Our promise to the people was for a free market, sir. Although we did also pledge to remain neutral.
Solent will not be controlled by any nations.
Precisely my point. We will stand strong and show an example to the world. I hope we won't regret this. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Whiskey will be in charge of informing you on those types of economic foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our internal economic plan.
Let's finish what Alfonso started with the capitalist free market reforms.
The recession was a direct result of his free market reforms. History must note that the reason for the recession was because Eduardo Alphonse was betrayed by his party. That is not true, Mr. Manga. There was plenty of time for him to do it. If you can't make change happen in 2 years, then you are at fault.
What about the long-term economic schedule?
Picking a construction company, trade relations, tax reform, and privatisation initiatives would be some of them. Sticking to a solid planned economy strategy would be the right call. The 5-year plans were fruitful in the past.
We should look at opportunities like privatisation to create financial resources.
This is exactly my mentality. There are many possibilities that they are waiting, like education or health privatisation. It would be better to promote a market economy for these for the consistency of our plan. So what general economic plan to promote?
Promote a free market economy as we promised.
I can't say I agree with this. Now that there is clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. This concludes our meeting. At our next gathering, we'll talk about the upcoming infrastructure investment plan. So, there's a few things to talk about here, guys. First of all, thoughts on free market versus planned economy. Like our genuine thoughts, not our roleplay thoughts.
Well, I'm typically against it in some ways, but I understand that business has to sort of be a thing to facilitate trade.
Yeah, competition does breed efficiency, so long as it exists and it isn't a monopoly.
Yep.
I personally prefer a kind of mixed approach, but go on.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I prefer like vital institutions like healthcare and transport be state owned, but
For the benefit of the people, eh? Keep the prices low for the services.
yeah, yep.
What do you think, Mr. Vice President? Mr. Vice President? Well,
Yo.
Oh, there he is.
Hello.
We
Sorry.
hear.
Toilet.
I was getting worried there for a sec.
So where are we at?
We thought you'd been assassinated.
Not yet. Almost.
We were asking your opinion on a free market economy versus a socialist-style planned economy.
I don't know, bro. I don't know much about this sort of stuff.
Do you think we should keep healthcare and education public?
Yes.
What about prisons?
Yes.
What about mining and our construction industry?
Yeah, I guess.
I think he's a commie. There's a commie in our midst, Bex. He's a commie.
Yeah. I don't know.
By the way, also we discussed briefly the idea of a country going it alone versus adopting alliances. Your thoughts, Mr. President?
Countries that join alliances it's good to have friends. I think you should always join an alliance when you have the opportunity.
Do you think we should try and steer an independent foreign policy, though?
I don't think Swordland could survive on its own.
And you, Mr. Vice President, what about in principle?
I agree. You need friends.
But surely a country should
I agree
take its own
completely.
decisions and not be some kind of superpower sidekick.
Yeah, at times, but
We could simply make bilateral treaties between the neighbouring countries. We don't need to whore ourselves out to a superpower, do we? You guys
I
just
don't
talk it
know.
out.
I think. Hey.
Well, we are in a good position. I mean, we still have the choice to go with either the west or the east.
Yeah.
Our campaign promise was neutrality.
Ah,
Although I admit our economic policy was for towards the free market. So I suppose we'll see. I do hope President Anderson will return soon. By the way,
yes,
though, Harry, you are doing a fantastic job as president, might I say.
thank you.
As our interim president during our glorious leader's absence. Okay, we've got a situation. A campaign finance bill. So basically this says that electoral funds will be allocated based on the number of seats rather than by proportion of the vote.
Yep, sign that.
That will greatly strengthen our party, but we did promise to enhance democracy, sir.
Okay, if that was one of the electorate promises, then please veto the bill.
President Anderson has also expressed an interest in working with the reformists, so perhaps a veto may be wise.
Yep.
Mr. Vice President, your thoughts? We could give ourselves a fair bit of money if we sign this bill, but all of the other parties won't be happy.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd
Mr.
definitely
President,
veto.
veto, was it?
Yep.
Meeting. A mega infrastructure project. The Ministry of Economy has put forward two bold plans for a mega infrastructure projects that would help with the economic recession in the long term. Investing in these projects would scale up a significant portion of our infrastructure, but also consume a significant portion of our budget. They could nonetheless prove worthwhile if accomplished successfully. Your thoughts, sir?
Invest in the project.
We will indeed, sir. The view towards the Markian Sea from Luckathan was nothing short of exquisite. The seaside state residence fittingly named the Blue Mansion was a large, fine and accommodating. But it wasn't the main reason for the visit. We gathered here with the economic team to discuss the possibility of the new infrastructure investment plan. Half an hour had already passed since the start of the meeting. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance to have my usual afternoon coffee. Looking at the view from the windows, I let my mind drift. Mr. President, we need to focus on boosting the economy as quickly as possible. One of the fastest ways to achieve this is through infrastructure projects.
Nod.
On one hand, the businessmen are complaining about the slow logistical rail network between Holsworld and Lackavan. Lilius interrupted. On the other hand, citizens are criticising the lack of a proper highway connection between Lackavan and Avery. The narrow roads by the seaside are not only dangerous, but also difficult to traverse.
We need to heed to the calls of businesses in these tight days of recession.
Agreed. Improving the rail connection from Holsworld to Lackavan would be much more beneficial to our economy. It's not the business people that suffer, but the ordinary folk. What really matters, though, is that we can accomplish something tangible in your first economic act.
We must prove our administrative capabilities. People must it's the administration that can get things done.
Therefore, I have identified two projects for your attention, Mr. President, the H3 Highway Project and the L1 High-Speed Railway Project. The Ministry can only support one project at a time, with the current capacity and the budget. Let's move on to the details of each. So which one do you want to hear about first?
The high-speed rail project, please.
Well, sir. Presently, the railway extends here from Holsworld towards Elleroy and Anrica. We'd like to greatly improve the rail track through this location. Or we have the highway, which will run from Lackavan to Avery here. At the moment we have a very simple 2-lane road, but this 4-lane highway will be a cracker, sir. Mr. President, why was the army not invited to this meeting?
I am not sure.
Clearly, the logistical preparations on our border regions and in our major industrial centres are a topic of concern for the military. Perhaps you would like our input before making your decision?
Yes.
Well, as you know, sir, the Rumburgians are our major threat. Constructing a highway from Avery to Lackavan would allow the safe lateral movement of our troops out of range of Rumburg's long-distance bombers. It could also allow the transfer of Agnolian troops to our southern front, should we so desire to make a strategic redeployment.
I see.
There has also been a desire for increased logistics from our industrial regions to the front line. To deliver ammunition as quickly as possible would certainly be an advantage in a long war. However, I and General Kruger disagree with each other over that.
Would the railway project facilitate the faster transportation of ammunition to the front lines?
It would, sir. However, it is not my opinion. After all, the munitions can only be transported once they're constructed. We would have to strengthen our military industry for that.
I see.
Still, in the event of a long war, it is General Kruger's choice. My own one is for strategic redeployment and rebuilding the infrastructure in our northeastern provinces to allow it. That would also improve our supply situation for a rapid campaign, sir.
I see.
Anyhow, I will return this meeting to the civilians. What is your choice, Mr. President?
The high-speed rail project sounds like the best option.
The right choice, Mr. President. Negotiations will begin in the middle of the year. You can be able to award the contract to a corporation of your choice. The Ministry estimates that the entire construction will finish in 2 years if every step going forward is executed successfully. Mr. President?
Thank you all.
Have a nice day. Here's an investment opportunity, sir.
Invest.
It is interesting that you and President Anderson both came from Dyer. You have a very poor background. Best it is.
All the more to appreciate the money.
Right. Maybe do some quick correspondences. Apparently, for the first time in 3 years, the agricultural output of Sana has increased. Apparently, new farming practices have been the reason why. What do you think of agriculture as a focus for our nation, Mr. President?
Sounds like a outdated practice, but a necessary one.
You'd prefer to factory farm?
Yes.
Well, sir, perhaps in the next millennium it could certainly be achieved, but in the 1950s, I think it may well be beyond us, sir.
Yes, I hope to industrialize the nation.
News from your home city, sir. Homelessness is increasing. It's particularly stark among the Bluedish people. Increased 72% in just 6 years.
I see.
Your thoughts on the way to tackle homelessness, sir?
If we get rid of the Bluedish people, then we'll get rid of the homeless.
That's very funny, sir. An excellent joke.
Yes.
The recession has led to a reduction in rail assets. I'm glad you made the decision to upgrade it, sir.
Looks like I made the right choice in that regard.
The port of Lackavan has lost influence. Perhaps once we add a new connection, things will improve. The port's country roads and bridges are quite poor in England, sir. Production is low. Avery reports a lack of investment. Well, time to attend the inaugural ball. I was hoping that President Anderson could attend with us.
It appears he is occupied with matters of state.
I see. Ah, my beloved daughter. Papa, Mama told me it's time to go.
Stroke her hair. Someday I'll have to find a voice.
Ew, boys, don't be gross, Papa. That's where cooties come from.
Oh my god.
It's almost time to leave.
Enough fussing around, let's go.
Frank, get the fuck in here! Monica, my darling wife, came down the stairs. She looked lovely. How do you do, Mr. President?
Just stand there and look at her.
Like a super creeper. President Stalker.
Where the hell is Frank? Frank!
He rushed down the stairs. I'm here, I'm here! Frank tugged at the collar of his new tuxedo. He seemed a little ill at ease.
Don't make me wait again.
I'm here now, aren't I?
I'm not joking, son.
Frank looked at the floor sullenly. Papa, these people are going to be around us from now on. He pointed at the presidential guards at the door of the house.
Unfortunately, yes, they can't leave our side until my term ends. You'll get used to it.
It's all right, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa or his family. Monica held Dina's hand. Together, flanked by the guards, we walked out to the door. Halfway to the car, Frank stopped abruptly and turned towards me. Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay home instead?
Don't make me angry, Frank.
Is this what you picked in your playthrough?
No, I'm just...
Oh, good. You're just going to screw up President Anderson's family, and I love it. He's just going to come home to it and wonder why his wife is pissed at him.
Yep.
Frank fell silent for a short while. Fine, I'm sorry. Got that over with, Frank? Let's go. The car is waiting for us. Presidential guard showed us the way as the red and blue lights flashed around us. Serge, my driver, ushered us into the armoured limousine. The motorcade started moving towards the palace. I gazed out the window, deep in thought. Anton, what are you thinking about?
Just come a long way together, haven't we?
Yes, we have, and there's still so much that we'll accomplish side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm going to help Papa fix everything. Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. After what seemed like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Serge rolled down the limousine's soundproof petition. We are here, sir. Hope you enjoyed the drive.
Not.
Serge opened the door for me. Politicians, bureaucrats, celebrities, the creme de la creme of Swordland's elite streamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. I stepped out and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones into my way. My guards fended most of them off, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognised the Swordish Broadcasting Company logo on her press lanyard. Mr. President, do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reform?
We're going to work with everybody.
Mr. Richter clarified that as long as you hold to your promise of democratisation, they will support you on these issues to the end. What do you think about this statement?
I welcome it. This is a challenge for us all.
One more question, sir. One of your first acts as president was to veto a campaign finance law that would have deprived small parties of funds, while increasing those channeled to your own. Are we seeing the beginning of a more egalitarian administration?
Yes, no political party deserves to be silenced.
That's enough, ma'am, said one of the guards, while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and we quickly made our way to the entrance to the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. Entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons of Swordish colours, white, yellow and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. Behind me I heard a familiar voice. There they are, the most beautiful family in all Swordland. Uncle Peter! Hi, Uncle Peter. It's great to see you. You two are the fastest growing kids. You're growing faster than I'm getting wisdom.
Mr. Vice President.
Mr. President. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Evelyn! Peter's wife Evelyn approached us and she shook our hands with a firmness that belied her delicate features. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say that the results were clear to me from the beginning.
I wish I was as sure as you.
Come now, you became the president. You held fast against the party leadership and you managed to win. I respect that.
I couldn't have done it without you, Peter.
I only did my part, Anton, but thanks, that means a lot. Monica, how are you? You've barely said a word. I'm more than relieved that this roller coaster ride is over with. But of course now the real work begins. Oh yes, managing to help planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look your best for foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my powers as First Lady to advance the position of women throughout Swordland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue, wouldn't you say so, Anton?
Absolutely. And we'll work together to achieve that.
Dina jumped in between us. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom.
Yes, it's time. Let's go.
Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Swordland. Oh, I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining conversations, some serious, some superficial, some just speeches. Ugh, tiring.
Another drink?
Suddenly a loud banging noise from outside the ballroom, then another one. The musicians stopped playing. Everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I turned towards each other, realization dawning on both of our faces. Fireworks? No! Gunshots! As Monica heard the words, she lunged for her seat.
Get down!
Anton, the kids! Monica, Dina and Frank all looked at me beseechingly. I rushed to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some of the guests flung themselves under their tables and others ran towards the doors screaming. Dina burst into tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out. Mr. President, are you all right? The head of the Swordish police force, Karl Kreiser, was running towards us, gun drawn. As soon as he made it and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a sigh of relief. Thank God!
Status report!
1 second, Mr. President. He turned around to his men. Check the perimeter, now! Hall, Jansen, follow my lead. We'll bring them to the safe room. He now turned to Monica, Evelyn and the children and spoke in a softer voice. Don't worry, the situation is under control. Please, follow me. What a fucking night.
It's not over yet. Can you shut your mouth for a bit?
Carl turned to us with a serious face as he turned the corner. Quiet, please. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped a switch on the wall and a panel opened, revealing a hidden staircase. Security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to me and Peter.
So, Carl, tell me, do I have clouds for a security force?
As I raised my voice, he lowered his head in respect. No, sir.
Then tell me how this circus show happens in my ward.
The room went quiet. Peter seemed like he was about to say something, but with one look from me, he stopped. I'm sorry, sir. I will personally conduct the investigation into our palace security force once we figure out what is going on. I can assure you I will be relentless in dealing with incompetence.
You better, for your sake, status update.
Dina started crying again because of my yelling. As you command, sir! Carl's radio crackled to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When it fell silent, he turned to us. Good news, we're not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with, and the perimeter has been secured by the guards and the police. He glanced towards Monica and the kids. If I may, sir, he gestured towards a more private corner of the room, speaking. This is what we know so far. We have confirmed that 2 people were gunned down in front of the palace. The attacker is one of them, and we have reasons to believe he is working alone. He fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Residential guards at the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. He has not been identified yet and will require an investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as communist member Bernard Serkis. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter pulled out 2 cigarettes and handed me one, then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him reassuring her that everything was going to be all right. Monica was still trying to tend to Dina and Frank. He paced the room, mumbling that he should have stayed home.
Smoke alarm.
As I continued smoking, a peculiar calm washed over me. I was going to see this through at all costs. I crushed the cigarette on the ashtray. That was hardcore! Time for an emergency meeting. The mood was gloomy. Cabinet ministers relating to security had come to discuss the initial report. Bernard Serkis was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of the assembly, and as you know, a famous communist. Spat the last words with some distaste. Guards at the scene were 50 metres away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as the member of the nationalist organisation, the Young Swords.
So I wasn't the target.
Fortunately, yes, you were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Our security forces have no reason to believe anyone has motivations to act against the President of Swordland for now. Our investigations are suspecting a political assassination, since the Young Swords have been threatening the communists for some time. This sets a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s might spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nia Morgner, the Minister for Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This in turn will spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Serkis expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions.
I fully agree. We should protect freedom of speech.
Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We had that before and know very well how it was. I hear your concerns. Our police are doing their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We will prevent such an act from ever happening again by making sure our security measures are re-evaluated. Minister of Defence Joseph Lancera grunted in approval, towered over the rest of us in his full military uniform, many war medals conspicuously on display. Agreed, Ma'am. Our gendarmerie will also help boost security in the rural areas where possible. There might be more to come. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire.
You're right, we need calm in this situation.
Our government is capable to maintain security. Our job will be to reduce tension. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation on all involved parties is underway. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I will do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget.
It's too soon to jump to conclusions. Reckless acts will have dire consequences.
Agreed. We need to be patient until we have the full picture. Lucian took some notes after checking newspapers and reports. Seems that tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country.
We can't fix the recession if there isn't stability.
You're right. We need to trust our ministers to stabilise the situation if it comes to it. This will be it for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. He was a poet and novelist, heavily influenced by social, cultural and economic problems in his home city of Dyer. He came from the same hometown.